Right, we'll crack on, I think. Cheers, folks, for making it down. I'm Paul Macdonald, and I'm a custom sword and knife maker, and we're here in the workshop at Macdonald Armouries in Edinburgh. I started the Armouries in 1998. All in all now, probably about 16, 17, 18 years. When I first came to Edinburgh for university originally, I found a couple of dirk and skadoo makers in the Royal Mile. I was, I think, naturally interested in making the weapons. I saw a lot of potential in that for craftsmanship and learning, and yeah, I started with them. I realised about a year into my course that the course wasn't really where I was headed, and so I think I found a path outside of that, and it was certainly in the direction of fencing originally, and having a natural interest in weaponry and making them, and it certainly set me off in that direction. I think the basis of the tool work, using the power tools, using the hand tools, was from those early days. It was from the first couple of years at Castle Arms. It gave me that foundation to then build on and explore. I was really at the time, at the end of the time at Castle Arms, looking to make something more authentic and a sort of higher level of detail and such as well, and authenticity. And the only way I could find to go about that at the time was really to start my own armoury. I suppose practically every working day is a wee bit different. Usually my mornings start with a couple of hours of admin at least, and then it sits into the armouries and, you know, into the tools. So it depends on the priority of projects at the time. It may be custom swords, but more often than not I'm cycling through the regular production of the FS knives, the commando knives. Along with a colleague Mike Smith, we established a Second World War living history group in I think it was 1998, and we wanted to specialise in the original commando training that they did during the Second World War. And we started that and got torn into it, loved it. The training side of it was very physical, you know, very active. It was great, and of course the knife appeared as part of that history, and I was clearly quite interested in it. It was a beautiful looking knife and clearly, you know, beautifully designed, and I really just wanted one, a nice repro for a nice bit of kit, and found that I couldn't find one in the market. There wasn't an early first or second pattern knife out there. So I thought, well, I do make things, I suppose I could do that, and so started looking at, you know, the grips, the blades and so on, and researching it and going about making my first knives from there. And so it's come to, yeah, now years later that I suppose I'm offering the widest range of FS knives on the market today. Fortunate enough that I don't have to advertise these days. It's all word of mouth and Facebook group and website. That's a great thing, and I think it certainly helped once word of mouth started to spread in military circles. So I've got custom coming in from largely US and UK military personnel and militaria collectors, of course, as well. They're always looking for something that's well crafted, well made, authentic in every detail really, but that obliges me to get things right, and yeah, it's a special knife. Early days of the armouries, I did factor in a few months at least of experimental time, more or less. So yeah, I had fun basically playing with the tools and looking at originals and getting access to museum collections to learn more and make examples of those swords. I decided to offer my services for refurbishment and restoration. I put together a list of castles and stately homes in Scotland and emailed that out, and that year I heard back only from one, but it was one of the most significant in Scotland, I think, and that was Duke of Argyll's collection in Inverary Castle.
Well, the collection that we have here is one of the larger private collections in Scotland. Now this castle was built, they started to build it in 1746, and a lot of the weapons that you have here on display are Brown Bess muskets, halberds, swords that would have been used at the Battle of Culloden. But these were last restored after the last big fire we had here in Inverary, which was in 1975. Paul was obviously touting for a little bit of business at the time, and I thought, well, I'll just sort of drop him an email and see what he has to say.
I would say in Scotland today there's literally only about a handful of professional sword and knife makers. There's not many, but it's good to see that those that are making it's good quality. It's good quality that's coming out of Scotland. So yeah, not many, but I think as long as the rare arts, crafts are kept alive by few in number at least, then they'll not die.
Colin, this is Paul. Paul, this is Colin.
Hi Paul, good to see you. Nice to meet you. As it stands, there's unfortunately a complete lack of funding, government funding towards traditional crafts. Our own heritage is really suffering because of that. It seems that in starting up a business, there's no shortage of start-up funding, and that's good. But once you're in business, it's then keeping it going. But something I've definitely had an issue with over the years is finding any kind of support to take on apprentices or take on staff in traditional crafts. That's a difficult thing. It's a very difficult thing. If you're working contemporary crafts, then there is ongoing support there. But traditional crafts has got a great connection to our nation, to our history, to our people, our culture itself, and there should be at least an equal balance of funding towards traditional crafts as with contemporary.
It's important for people to know that there are difficulties in this regard, because I had no idea that some of the traditional industries such as this didn't receive any support, and I'll be looking into that. Obviously I can't promise any funding, don't have that sort of power, but I'll certainly make people aware of it, and if I can help them at all, I certainly will.
The Armouries is really at that stage right now where it needs to step up in 2 levels. It needs equipment to help the production along, and it needs skill base. It needs more hands on deck basically to keep things rolling a bit swifter.
He's looking for an apprentice and a worker now, and saying, okay, I have to apply.
I suppose in an apprentice, a lot of it comes down to having the right approach, the right attitude, being the right type of person for the job, because it really is important to have a passion for the job, for the history, for the steel, really. It's essential, really, because you have to keep your own interest alive daily, and it's that passion that feeds that. You want to explore more, you want to learn more, you constantly want to up your own game and your skills. So again, that's something that it can be put across easily on paper, but you only really know it when you see it. And any traditional or heritage craft worker, they're in quite an important position, really. They are bearers of tradition. They are the ones that are keeping these things alive, and they're passing them on to apprentices and so on, but effectively to next generations. They're the ones that have either learned from skill base before them generationally, or they've put in the hours, the days, weeks, months and years, collective decades of experience, and they act really as cultural gems that way, in terms of their knowledge and their abilities. So I think these are very important. I do remember growing up in the Highlands and just walking for miles, time over hills, and just loving every moment of that, and wondering at times if you might been the first human to step on a particular part of a remote hill somewhere. That was quite a fascinating thought as a youngster, and it also made you think, if you weren't, then who else has? taken a step where you've stepped. And so I think that's one of the earliest thoughts I think I can remember thinking on the hills, and connecting the land with the past and the people of the past. And I think the more involved I've been with history of all periods, then the more aware I become that yeah, we have evidence of our past, of, you know, those who've lived on the land and from the land and fought for that as well through history. That yeah, there are still things there to be found. I think when you see the land with the history, that you see it in a very different way. It's no longer just a pretty scene, you know, or something to admire just for the sight it is, but yeah, you can connect with it on a very personal level, knowing something more about the history, and specifically conflict history, because I think we all have that in our past there somewhere. A couple of years ago now, myself and a few like-minded mates, largely craftsmen and historians, went on a week-long adventure around the Highlands with a couple of sites primarily in mind to metal detect and hopefully make discoveries at. And we certainly made discoveries we were looking for at one of the sites, but it gave us a thorough interest in knowing that there were so many other sites, historical sites out there, and finds to be made in Scottish history. And we started up a wee battlefield archaeology group. It goes by the name of Conflicts of Interest. This is way beyond hobby. It becomes lifestyle, really. It becomes what you eat and think about, really, or most of your days. So it's a huge immersion in history, and it's ongoing learning. I've always said every day is a school day. You always learn, you always realise there's another level of quality to step up to, and that's a great thing. Yeah, it keeps you going. I'm not sure I'd like to be content, you know. I think the greatest advances in any culture or society are made by the discontent. You know?